Hello, aspirants, and welcome. Today, we're diving into a topic that's absolutely crucial for your GS Paper 2, the immense challenges facing India's urban informal workforce. Now, this is a reoccurring theme, in governance and social justice, and really understanding its complexities is what's going to be key to crafting a compelling analysis in your exams.
You might have seen the recent worker protests in Noida in the news. Well, these are more than just a headline. They're a clear symptom of a much larger systemic crisis. We're talking about the deep precarity of millions of urban workers across India. Seeing the macro issue in these micro events, that's crucial for a strong analysis. So, to really get a grip on this, we first have to establish the sheer scale of the challenge. Sometimes a single hard-hitting data point can set the entire context for the problem. Ms. Rao?
That's right, Mr. Sharma. The key figure here, and this is from the Periodic Labor Force Survey, is staggering: 90%. Just let that sink in. 90% of India's urban employment is informal. What does this mean? It means the vast majority of people who build and run our cities, they're operating without formal contracts, without social security, or any real legal protection. Citing this data in your answer immediately establishes the gravity of the situation.
Exactly. But a number that big, it doesn't just appear overnight, does it? To provide that real analytical depth that examiners are looking for, we need to trace the historical shifts that created this reality. So, how did we get here?
Well, there's been a fundamental transformation in our cities. Think about it. They've shifted from being hubs of industrial production with large factories and organized labor to being centers of what we call social reproduction. This basically means the modern urban economy relies on this vast, fragmented network of informal services that support daily life. We're talking about everyone from domestic help and security guards to delivery drivers and street vendors. And this very fragmentation has steadily eroded the workers' collective bargaining power.
And this whole trend was sped up by a major policy shift, often called the Washington Consensus. In essence, the state's focus moved away from providing rights-based services, things like public health and education, towards a model that favored privatization and fiscal discipline. You can directly connect this to the privatization of essential services, which makes life more and more expensive for the urban poor. And those policy shifts have had absolutely devastating consequences on the ground. We can actually see a clear line from these large-scale economic changes to the daily vulnerabilities that trap workers in a vicious cycle. The financial precarity is extreme. Just consider rent. The urban poor often spend between 30 to 50% of their monthly income on housing alone. And this is typically in informal settlements. This leaves almost nothing for food, for healthcare, or for education. It literally locks them into a cycle of poverty. And this is where you see how all these problems are so deeply interconnected. The lack of land tenure security forces people into vulnerable housing, often in flood-prone areas. And without property as collateral, they're completely shut out from formal banking. So what happens? This pushes them towards predatory moneylenders and into these chronic debt traps. It's a clear intersection of governance failure, social injustice, and poor urban planning.
Exactly. So after we've analyzed the problem's roots and its impact, we arrive at the most crucial part of any mains answer, the way forward. A solution-oriented, constructive approach is absolutely essential. So what can actually be done?
The Kerala Urban Commission offers a really powerful paradigm shift here. Instead of workers being just passive recipients of policy, the idea is that they must become co-producers of urban governance. This points to a model of participatory governance, where the workers themselves actually have a seat at the planning table. And we can break this model down into 3 actionable steps. First, formally involving workers' unions in urban planning processes. Second, empowering them to be true co-producers of development, not just labor. And third, building strong alliances that bridge the gap between the organized trade unions and the informal sector workers. This gives you a clear, structured framework you can use for your answer. So this leaves us with a critical question, and it's one you might very well face in your interview. As a future administrator, how would you apply these principles? How can urban policy be fundamentally reimagined to ensure dignity and security for this vital workforce? It's something to really reflect on. Thank you for joining us.